So I believe this was the more technical presentation of the evening. So for the non-purely tech folks in the audience, bear with us. I think Alexis' presentation is a little less.
It has more pictures.
More pictures. Great.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Alexis. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Datadog. And tonight I want to talk about big IT data. And what I want to illustrate is how big data is changing the world of IT. And I want to make it pretty personal and pretty visceral. So how do I illustrate that? I want to draw a parallel between how we were writing and running web applications about 10 years ago to how we're doing it now. So 10 years ago, this is what you need for a web app. You need to buy servers. It's expensive. You need to roll it out. It takes about 6 to 12 months. Everything is on premise. Whereas now, it's completely different, right? Now, you take a credit card, you can get 1,000 servers. I mean, I'm sure Kay appreciates that. In 5 minutes, run your jobs, and then go away. So that's fundamentally different. Another key difference between what we're doing 10 years ago and what we're doing now is really we were serving thousands of users or tens of thousands of users. Which is, with a few exceptions to the millions, but especially most enterprise applications were in the thousands to 100,000 at most. Now, now we're web scale, in quotes. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to serve 1 billion users, but it means that any application you're conceiving, any application you're operating now is running with a scale. You have an idea of scale, which is typically going to be in the tens of millions if you're consumer, or even in the higher thousands or 200,000s to more if you're enterprise. Back then, we had really few external dependencies. So I'd put together my servers in a colocation. I'd deploy my code on those servers, and that was it. I was in business. I could start serving traffic. Now, because we have to support so many more users, our architectures for even relatively simple web applications have become super distributed. And to go to market faster, we've started to outsource a lot more things. So we started to outsource compute. That's Amazon. We outsource content delivery. We outsource network management. We outsource billing, customer management. We outsource everything. So what that creates, it creates really external dependencies between my core application and a bunch of other providers that surround it. So back then, I had a couple of tools, and that was fine. I could run my application and see how it was doing. Now I need tons of tools because I have to look everywhere to make sure that my app is working and my dependencies are being met. So back then, if I were asked to put together a dashboard for my application, it would look like this, not exactly like this, of course, but something relatively simple, right? You have a couple of metrics, and you can see, you put them together and you can see what's happening. Now, for a reasonably sort of run-of-the-mill application, the dashboard looks like this. It's everywhere. You have to pull data from 20 different places to really understand what's happening, and you have to do that in real time. And that's really tough. So compound that with the fact that 10 years ago, most people were writing software and delivering software in a waterfall model where you do a couple of releases every year, and then then your job's done. Now you don't have to be Facebook again, but the delivery schedule has moved from a couple of times a year to maybe a couple of times a month or a couple of times a week, and that's a drastic change on your application. And importantly, on the people in the middle of that. So this is traditionally, 10 years ago, you'd have developers and operations, two different groups that operate in isolation, and whenever they meet, things happen. Not always amicable. Now it's actually kind of the same. That's the part that hasn't changed, right? Technology around us has changed a lot. People, well, it's a different story. So if I want to illustrate the problem I just described, in one picture is this. You have people in the middle, in this case, developers and web operators or IT operators. And they're surrounded by this mass of stuff. It's servers, it's content providers, it's application providers, and so on, that are bombarding them in real time about with tons of signals. This is an alert happening here. This is a number of performance metric happening. A lot of choices have to be made constantly, and you have to be aware of everything that's happening if you want to make sure that your application is up and running. So if you're a developer or in operation, you're one of these guys, and I'm one of these guys. So I know the pain. You run high application at high scale, fast delivery. It's in the cloud, it's very elastic. Sometimes machine disappear, and you don't know why. You have tons of dependencies. You have too many tools to look at, lots of users to support. So it's really, really stressful, and the amount of data that you have to digest has gone 10x. It's become unmanageable. So a couple of years ago, while we were seeing this transformation at play, we were thinking, what can we do to solve this problem? So we kind of went back to the drawing board and say, well, the next generation monitoring application for developers and operations needs to do a couple of things. It needs to do really 4 things. The first thing, it needs to aggregate all that data that lies around, that surrounds you, into one place, so you can see your IT data in one place. The second thing it has to do, it has to let you correlate easily between what's happening in your CDN and what's happening on your servers, for instance, because there might be some effect, some cause and effect that's there. The third thing it has to let you do is easily collaborate between, so if you're seeing something, you want to share it with your team, and you don't want to waste time, saying, oh, there's a problem here, and then, losing a lot of context. The fourth thing that we have that application has to do is to be able to analyze that wealth of data and extract the relevant or the salient facts out of it. So aggregation, what does it look like in Datadog? So this is the timeline of your application, of everything that composes your application. And you'll notice that it kind of looks like a Facebook timeline, and that's obviously not by accident. So imagine there's everything that we know that we receive about your application in real time. Very easily, you can select, say I'm interested in a number of alerts and code changes today because I've received complaints from customers and I know we've pushed some code today. So I want to know what's happening. So I can easily kind of select GitHub Nagios Pingdom and get a reduced timeline that really explains to me, well, here's an alert, here's another alert, here's a code change. So I can easily see what happened in this case today. And that might give me a color, that might give me a good insight into why I'm getting more complaints today from my users. Second thing, so correlation. So again, because issues start somewhere in the system and they pop up somewhere else. So here's a dashboard from my application. You can see it's latency, and there's a big jump here. So here is when users start to become unhappy. So I can easily do, and I think that it's caused, and this is my intuition as an architect for this particular application, I think the problem is caused by my Postgres database. So what I can do in Datadog is I start with this dashboard, and I can just type Postgres, and it just spits back what happened that relates to Postgres. So I can view the timeline in context with the data and isolate that, today there was a code change about Postgres, and that happened pretty much exactly at the same time there was a latency spike. So, it might not exactly be that, but it's a strong candidate to understand what happened. All right, collaboration, because obviously you can't solve problems alone. So, building on the previous example here, I found something, I can easily start a conversation with the rest of my team. It's in context. I'm not switching to email and, just kind of having these long email threads that are totally detached from the data that they're talking about. The fourth thing that we do is analysis. So, we not just be alert guacamoles and not just react to what's happening all the time. We rather harness the fact that we're aggregating the data from all over the place, and then we're able to tell you, hey, there were additional, not additional, but increased alerts on this part of the system. So, and we tell you that, and the next thing we can also do is give you, if you will, the trends and show maybe outliers and different visualization of these are the alerts that happened this week, and these are from this particular subsystems, and that's the distribution by time of day and day of week. So it's really cutting through the noise and trying to get to the gist of what's relevant in the vast trove of data that we're receiving. So that's Datadog. If the key takeaway, the number one is if you're in development or operation, you want to sign up now because you need it. The second takeaway is the IT world is changing. If you're in the trenches or if you have somebody in your company who are in the trenches, the ground is shifting under their feet. The third takeaway is there's just so much data that all this system is generating that they're going to be lost. So the fourth takeaway is you need tools for that. You won't be able to rely on just people. And so that's why we built Datadog, and please sign up. Thank you.
All right, questions? We have one here.
Yeah, I'm Phil Oreska. I helped start 2 system management companies that I sold to BMC. So how are you going to compete with like CompuWare? I didn't know you were going to speak tonight, just so I am an expert in this area. How are you going to compete with CompuWare, Dynatrace, or OpNet? Dynatrace has some serious tools to do this. They automate everything. So how are you different than Dynatrace?
So you're right, there's a wealth of tools that currently exist. Some of them are super specialized in tracing business, business transactions and so on. Maybe what I was not terribly obvious in the presentation is what we do a lot of aggregation about from these various sources. So I show GitHub and Nagios and a few of those. So the goal really is not so much to replace them. The goal is to extract the interesting stuff from the tools. So it could be interesting alerts, for instance, that are extracted from that the tool can publish to Datadog. So that's typically the model. No.
Oh, the mic is down. Okay.
Hi, Andrew Stern from F5 Networks. I'm just curious. It seemed like you were so I get that you're sucking in all the any data you can get from anywhere, and I'm curious if you see it being used more like a Splunk or Google type. I know what I'm looking for, and I can get anything from this source, or more. I don't know who the analogy would be, but anomaly detection, or we're going to suck in everything, and we're going to tell you what you need to care about.
So I would say more the latter. I think we differ from a Splunk, or where we see Splunk as the Google for IT data, where you know what you're looking for and you get the results. If I may have the analogy, more like the Facebook for IT data. So there's a bunch of things that connect to it. We can perform some analysis on the incoming data to extract the interesting pieces, but we're pushing data to you. We're not relying on you to know what you're looking for to give you the data.
Hi, my name is Dan Eldridge. This grew out of your own need, perhaps, one, and two, what were the other candidates for names of the company?
So is this from our own need? Yes. This is from operating an application at scale for hundreds of thousands of people, and then going crazy with having to look at so many different tools to understand what's going on. The name, it's purely accidental, and that's the one that had just the best resonance with, people say, oh, it's a cute name. So.
Hello. Testing the mic. Hi, my name is Jason. I'm with Greenplum, and my question is, where is your service stored? Is it stored on a local to the rack, the data center? Is it on the cloud?
It's in the cloud.
The company pushes and pulls data.
Yeah, it's in the cloud. So we're pulling data from your data center, as well as from the provider you use. For instance, if you use a CDN, we can pull the data from them. So performance metrics, alerts, events, and so on.
And can you configure how much and what data is pulled for, say, security considerations and such?
So it depends on the sources. For the most part, so yes, in short, yes, but it depends on the sources. If the sources allow for a complex security mapping, then we can do that. Others are pretty wide open, and then in that case, we cannot take everything.
Hello? More questions? No? Okay. Great, terrific. Thank you very much.
Thanks.